Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about something that has been building for years and finally exploded into a full-blown criminal trial in South Korea. The former president of the Unification Church, Tomohiro Tanaka, stood in a Seoul courtroom this week and flatly denied every single charge against him. This is the first time in South Korean history that high-ranking leaders of the church, often still called the Moonies by critics, are facing criminal prosecution over their alleged relationship with a sitting administration. So let's unpack exactly what's happening, why it's happening now, and what it could mean going forward. First, a quick reminder of who Tomohiro Tanaka is. He's a Japanese national and until very recently served as the president of the international branch of the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, which is the official name the church adopted a few decades ago to distance itself from the old Unification Church or Moonies label. Tanaka succeeded Hak Ja-han Moon, the widow of founder Sun Myung Moon, in a leadership role focused especially on Japan and global operations. He's been the public face of the church ever since the 2022 assassination of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe brought the organization back into the spotlight. That tragedy uncovered decades of grievances in Japan about aggressive donation practices, and the backlash quickly spread to South Korea, where the church was actually born. So, what exactly is Tanaka accused of? South Korean prosecutors indicted him and several other church officials on charges that basically boiled down to violating the Improper Solicitation and Lobbying Act, plus some breach of trust allegations. The core claim is that during the Yoon Suk-yeol administration, the church received illegal favors from government officials in exchange for political support and donations funneled through conservative networks. Prosecutors point to things like expedited event permits, lenient treatment in regulatory disputes, and even alleged intervention when local governments tried to block church-related construction projects. They say this amounted to an improper quid pro quo that undermined fair administration. Tanaka's response in court was crystal clear and uncompromising. He said, and I'm paraphrasing slightly here, but this is the gist, there was absolutely no illegal support from the Yoon administration, no improper requests from us, and no exchange of favors. He argued that every interaction the church had with government offices was transparent, legal, and well within the rights of any religious organization in a democracy. The church's legal team went further, calling the entire case a politically motivated witch hunt designed to capitalize on the wave of anti-unification church sentiment that has swept both Japan and Korea since 2022. And honestly, when you zoom out, it's not hard to see why they frame it that way. Remember that President Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached and removed from office earlier this year, largely over unrelated martial law chaos. But during his tenure, his wife and members of his inner circle were repeatedly accused of being too close to controversial religious figures, including some linked to the Unification Church. After Yoon fell, the interim and now the new progressive-leaning government has made a very public show of cracking down on what they call collusive ties between politics and shady religious groups. So the timing raises eyebrows for a lot of observers. Is this genuine accountability, or is it settling political scores using the church as a convenient target? One of the most interesting parts of Tanaka's defense is that he openly admitted the church did support certain conservative political figures and causes, including some in Yoon's orbit. But he insisted all of that support was ideological, not transactional. The church has long positioned itself as fiercely anti-communist, pro-family values, and supportive of stronger Japan-South Korea ties, positions that naturally aligned it with conservative administrations in both countries. Tanaka basically said, yes, we praised politicians who shared our vision. We held events they attended. We encouraged members to vote for candidates we liked. But none of that crosses the line into criminality. In many democracies, that would be considered normal religious advocacy. The prosecution, on the other hand, is trying to paint a much darker picture. They're bringing in testimony from former church members and local officials who claim pressure was applied behind the scenes, that permits were granted unusually fast after church leaders met with high-ranking officials, and that some conservative politicians actively shielded the church from investigations into its fundraising practices. Whether they can prove a direct and illegal link is the million-dollar question the court will have to decide. If the church leaders are convicted, the penalties could be severe, years in prison for Tanaka and the others, plus massive fines and possibly restrictions on the church's activities in South Korea. That would be a body blow to an organization that still considers Korea its spiritual homeland, even though the vast majority of its revenue now comes from Japan. On the flip side, if they're acquitted, it will be seen by many as proof that the current government overreached and tried to criminalize ordinary religious political engagement. So, either way, this trial is bigger than just one church. It's a test case for where South Korea draws the line between legitimate religious freedom and improper influence peddling. We've seen similar debates in the US with evangelical groups, in Japan with Soka Gakka, and now it's Korea's turn to figure it out in public. Whatever you think of the Unification Church, and believe me, opinions are never mild, the precedent set here will affect every major religious player in the country for decades. So, that's where things stand as the trial kicks off. I'll be following every twist and turn, so make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell so you don't miss the next update. Let me know in the comments what you think. Is this justice finally being served, or a dangerous politicization of the courts? Either way, drop your thoughts respectfully, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.